Islam, Moors, peace and love. We're here for installment, sneak installment of Canaanland Moors class, because got one day and all that. For since Canaanland is part of the United States of America, right? Since Canada is in North America, we'll just put some things on the record, because people are talking crazy right now. People are talking crazy right now. People are talking so crazy that they think Cujo's crazy for telling people stop listening to crazy people. So we're going to deal with some things today with regard to, did Noble Drew Ali teach Moors to vote Democratic? Is that something in the lessons of Noble Drew Ali? Because remember, everything about Noble Drew Ali is public record. You have Chicago Defender newspaper, right? And Chicago Defender newspaper carried articles regular about Noble Drew Ali. Not once in a while or whatever, regular. They had articles about Moorish Science Temple and all that. So everything that Noble Drew Ali did is public record. You don't need to go to some Moorish Science Temple of America to go find out. You can go to Library of Congress. You can go to public library. You can go to black whatever museums. They'll have a little something about him, because he's that important, and what he brought is that important. And he taught Moors that the great God of the universe guides what he does. It's not even him. So if the great God of the universe guides what Noble Drew Ali does, then it would be in your best interest if you say that you're a Moorish American, Moor American, Aboriginal Indigenous Moor, Washita Moor, Nuwapian Moor. It doesn't matter what the hell. It's all the same stuff. You could play name games if you want to. It's all Moors. Ish on it, no ish on it, doesn't matter. It's Moors. Doesn't matter. Moors. What he laid down was so impactful that it got adopted, right? It got adopted by an individual who, it's a documented fact that him and Noble Drew Ali were like this. It's documented fact. It's not just saying some stuff and you can't go check. Not just telling you, yeah, go over there and get those people to seal your stuff and whatever like that. This is, you can go check for yourself. But like we like to do at Canaanland Moors, we like to just put it on the record and give it to you. So that way, we're protected, because then dirty Moors and fence riding Moors and Moors don't know what the hell they want can't say they weren't told. Hands are clean. We got the bowl and we wash the hands off, because 1,200 videos, can't say that you weren't told. You can say whatever you want about whoever you want, but there's a specificity about what Canaanland Moors does compared to all other Moors, right? And one thing that we stick to is that priesthood is dead, and it ain't nobody but Noble Drew Ali, and that's it. If they're behind Noble Drew Ali, then that's Noble Drew Ali. If they're going to teach the things that are in line with what Noble Drew Ali brought, then yes, that's Noble Drew Ali. And even though I'm saying that, they're not going to take that as, oh, Cujo said that now he got reincarnated and all that stuff. They humbly reject the title and say, just call me by my regular, you know what I mean, Albay or whatever. Because work was already done. You don't need any more chiefs in this tribe. We have enough chiefs. Right? So we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the time of the prophet and deal with one of his chiefs. One of his chiefs who took what Noble Drew Ali brought and not only saved himself, but did a wondrous job of taking the prophet's program into the lion's den, into the same corporate jurisdiction that was trying to take over, and going in the lion's den and using the platform of the lion's den to push the cause of Noble Drew Ali. While people out here have what Noble Drew Ali have, and they haven't done anything relative to what this individual's done for Moors that thought that they were Negro black colored, which was the point of him being the one to go into the lion's den. Because he knew that he was a Negro black colored. He knew that. Right? He knew that. So we're gonna get Cujo off the box for a bit. And we have about maybe 15 minutes of highlights from the career of Officer DePriest with his great-grandson.
Well, you know, Congressman Madden passed away, and then Mayor Thompson of Chicago, being fully aware of the influence my great-grandfather had in the south side of Chicago and the entire, you know, black voting bloc, appointed him to run for Congressman Madden's seat, well, in his place. When he was elected, there was a huge controversy as to whether or not he would be seated, because clearly the Southern Democrats did not want to see an African-American member of Congress. So the day that he was to be sworn in, there was a big question mark as to whether or not that was really going to happen. Luckily for my great-grandfather, he had an angel looking over his shoulder. Ruth McCormick, who was the widow of late Senator McCormick from Illinois, was also a freshman congressman that had just been elected from Illinois. She was good friends with Alice Roosevelt Longworth, who was the wife of Congressman Longworth, Speaker of the House from Ohio. And he was the gentleman that was tasked with swearing in all the new members. So Congressman McCormick was able to approach Speaker Longworth and request that he find a way to seat DePriest without any kind of incident. Now the Speaker, being acutely aware of the controversy surrounding the seating of Oscar DePriest as a member of Congress, took the extraordinary step of swearing in all the members simultaneously. Prior to that, it had been done by state delegations. Longworth took it upon himself to have everybody stand up at the same time and take the oath as a group, as one big happy family. And I quote, the chairman said, "The chair has observed that under our general practice of where groups are sworn separately, the remainder of the House is apt to be in complete disorder. It will more comport with the dignity and solemnity of the ceremony if the Speaker administers the oath to all members of the body at once." So at that point, Oscar DePriest became the first black elected in the 20th century. First black ever elected from a northern state. So he set a bitter precedent on that day. And good for Speaker Longworth, he had made an end run around the Southern Democrats, who were determined to stop DePriest from being seated. Now there were tense moments in the audience before that were documented by a number of reporters. There was a reporter for the Chicago Whip named Mrs. Loveland Evans, who was a very, very fair-skinned black reporter. When she tried to get into the press area, she was not allowed in because she told the ushers she worked for a black-owned newspaper. So she was instructed to find a seat in the first floor gallery. She found a seat next to Dean Cook, who was from Howard University, and a white woman with a very thick Southern accent who did not realize that Mrs. Evans was a black woman. She also discovered that she was sitting right behind my great-grandmother and her son, my grandfather. The woman from the South, oblivious to who she was sitting behind, perked up and said, and I quote, "Do you think they're going to let that nigger, Oscar DePriest, take his seat?" Well, Mrs. Evans was aghast, to say the least, that this woman had said that. She was not aware that she was sitting behind Jesse DePriest. So Mrs. Evans looked at Jesse for a reaction and saw that she was a bit disturbed by what had just taken place, but she maintained her composure and did not utter a word at all. After the swearing-in was done, the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of 12 million African Americans were lifted to a height that was never felt before in the 20th century. They had had no representation. There was a reporter for the Chicago Defender who said, as he walked majestic...
And this is key right here. Keep in mind, the teachings of Noble Drew Ali and him instructing Moors that he's prepping them to take their place amongst the affairs of men. And of all these thousands of Moors around Noble Drew Ali during the time of him teaching that, you have about 6-7 Moors that took their place. But there are thousands of Moors. So it's clear that Moors in Noble Drew Ali's time were passive, just like they are today. So he came for particular Moors. Because to know about your birthright and not exercise it is useless. You might as well not have the birthright. If you're not going to exercise it, then why you have the birthright? What's the purpose of having the birthright if you're not going to do something with the birthright. So Oscar DePriest did something with the birthright. Right? Now keep in mind, key what he's going to be talking about right now.
There was a reporter for the Chicago Defender who said, "We're lifted to a height." After the swearing-in was done, the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of 12 million African Americans were lifted to a height that was never felt before in the 20th century. They had had no representation. There was a reporter for the Chicago Defender who said, as he walked majestically down the aisle, his face was grim, almost to the point of sternness, as if the solemnness of the occasion rested on his shoulders. I think at that point it really dawned on DePriest that he was a sole voice now for 12 million African Americans in this country. I can't imagine the weight of that responsibility that he must have felt at that point. And then for the next 6 years, he was the only member of color in the entire United States Congress. And keep in mind, this is 1929, and Washington, D.C. is a southern town. So he dealt with overt, in-your-face racism every single day he was there. From every restaurant in town to the floor of Congress. He dealt with a hostile, racist environment. But yet he was able to persevere and succeed in advancing the betterment of African Americans.
How was he able to do that? How was he able to be the lone Asiatic in Congress? No other Asiatics in there, just him. And get through to the people in order to have a direct hand in change, whether it's on the level of Congress, whether it's in the arena of politics, whether it's in the community, didn't matter. Asian neighborhood, European neighborhood, they were messing with Oscar DePriest. Lone Asiatic amongst all these Klans members. But again, when you study what Noble Drew Ali left you, he said certain things. Because as a prophet, everything that he says is spirit, so heed what he's saying. And he told Moors that the only way you're going to make it through the fire is if I'm your water. All you got to do is just follow me. Just follow me and everything would go according to plan. Oscar DePriest, remember, there's a picture with him and Noble Drew Ali sitting next to each other. So it's a documented fact. Right? Now keep in mind, a very huge point to be made right now is that Oscar DePriest saw himself as an American citizen, not a U.S. citizen. I'm going to repeat. In 1928-29, when he's running for his stuff, he was not identifying himself or his people as U.S. citizens. Nothing to do with U.S. He said that they're American citizens and that he's an American citizen. Now this is Oscar DePriest, who was sitting next to the prophet. So I'm going to go with Oscar DePriest stuff since he was sitting next to the prophet. Before I go with any more today telling me about what my citizenship is. Forget them. They never sat next to the prophet. There's a man who sat next to the prophet that's telling you American citizen. If you're American citizen, clearly you're not Negro, black, or colored. If you're American citizen, you're not a U.S. citizen.
He would do what he had to do. Crossing party lines was not an issue to him. If he found a supporter, be it a Democrat or Republican, then so be it. He would court that support and welcome it, and then recognize that also. And he was a Black Caucus of 1. I think that's 42 now in the House and Senate, but Black Caucus of him.
Image credits Oscar DePriest, courtesy of Philip DePriest. The visitors gallery, as it would have appeared in 1929, is visible above the House floor in the chamber, Library of Congress. And this is White House Historical Association highlights from the career of Oscar DePriest, YouTube. So let's hear what Moors have to say about Oscar DePriest. Considering he sat next to the prophet, we should probably consider what Moors think about Oscar DePriest, if we're Moors. You know what I mean? Like, you're not... Only Mr. Chin knows how to make the plastic rice. If you're going to go to the plastic rice, you're going to go to Mr. Chin. Right? We're going to go with the Moor, who has, you know, something to say with regard to Oscar DePriest and Noble Drew Ali. So remember that everything that the Moors do is supposed to be public record. Because, you know, Noble Drew Ali told Moors, make sure you have paper and all that. So this is January 2012, Moorish Guide, National Edition, newspaper. And this was the Moorish Guide newspaper coming out of Asbury Park territory with Grand Sheik, Nature El Bay. Right? So this is their paper. And we'll go to page 4. DePriest asks all to study the Constitution, seeks to have citizens better informed. DePriest was a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America under the leadership of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in 1928, and with the assistance of the 3,000 Moorish Americans of Chicago, he was able to be elected as the first Asiatic congressman. DePriest held his office at Unity Hall, 3140 Indiana Avenue, which was the home office of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So there was a strong relationship between Noble Drew Ali and Oscar DePriest. In fact, DePriest also spoke at the Moorish American First Annual Convention held at Unity Hall. There is no doubt that these two constitutionalists worked together to restore the free national standards of law and to make sure every citizen answered up to the constitutional standards of law by names and principles. Prophet Noble Drew Ali strongly emphasized in the divine warning for the nations, for all true American citizens to help him in his mission to get his people back into the constitutional fold of government. DePriest helped to further that mission in a political venue directed directly to those who claim to know law. Those representatives of our government had a public oath reflecting their fiduciary duty in which they were sworn in to exercise in good faith according to their understanding, and since the Constitution has been misplaced from the educational teachings of government and the public school system, the Constitution has become the secondary interest to the citizens in general. To be a citizen of this free national republic of the United States of America, you must first claim your descent name and have a fundamental knowledge of the laws of this country, i.e. the Constitution, and take an oath of allegiance to support the Constitution of the country and state where you domicile. If these constitutional requirements are not met by the citizens, we become classified as artificial citizens possessing privileged citizenship regulated by the unconstitutional 14th Amendment, which are a modern-day black codes that was founded to regulate the slave trade. The Constitution reflects the agreement between the natural citizens of the land and their representatives and guarantees a republic form of government. To ignore this is to agree to enslavement. Congressman is a part of a legislative branch of government that is empowered to make law according to the checks and balances described in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, which also consists of a House of Representatives and a Senate. Not only does this department make law, but they also have the obligation to represent the natural people of the land that constitutes the state body politic. DePriest, being the first Asiatic congressman, was a great advantage to the so-called black community of Chicago because the duty of the congressman is to express the will of the people. One of the important elements DePriest understood through his teachings from Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Temple of America was that black was not the proper name of our people, and as long as we keep clinging to the names and principles that delude to slavery, we would be outside the constitutional fold of government. In DePriest's reasons why he requesting the support of the education of the Constitution is he quoted the several states in the Union based their suffrage on the reading and interpretations of the Constitution. The word suffrage means the right to vote or the process in which to vote. This is key in understanding the republic form of government. Voting is a right protected by the Constitution, exercised by the natural citizens of the state. Noble Drew Ali taught that by claiming a free national name, we can cast a ballot at the polls under the state's Constitution and not as a granted privilege which it has been for many generations. Natural persons, i.e. free national citizens, have constitutional protected rights, and Negroes, blacks, whites, etc., i.e. colored names, have privileges. You can write your congressman to address these issues and don't elect them if they're not willing to do so. Oscar DePriest, quote, I am very anxious that those in my racial group should be better acquainted with the Constitution, and whereby more clearly understand their rights. There are several states of the Union that base their suffrage upon the ability to read and interpret the Constitution. Wishing to carry on a campaign of education on the Constitution, I am writing to ask for your cooperation in getting this matter before churches, schools, and societies of every description with which you are associated. If you can consistently do so, you will have the people read and discuss the Constitution and the amendments thereto section by section until they become thoroughly acquainted with it. As loyal American citizens, we owe allegiance to the laws of our country and should know the contents of this document in order that we may protect our rights accordingly. When one understands the Constitution, he or she will be in a position to ask his or her congressional candidate for support of every section and every amendment to the Constitution. Those candidates who are not willing to do so should not be elected to office. Those who are willing to do so should be earnestly supported and elected. Now, with regard to Moors telling Moors to go vote, Moors telling Moors to go vote. None of those people out there that are running for whatever they're running for, none of those people are not willing to enforce the Constitution, because they take an oath to it, but they say democracy. So clearly they're not in harmony with the Constitution, which means they should not be elected. They should not be supported. You should not be going and voting for them, because they're not speaking in your best interest. They're speaking in corporate interests. And you're not a corpse if you say you're a Moorish American. If you're a Moorish American, then you have a right to vote or not to vote. Because clearly the people who you are saying you're going to vote for are against the free national constitution. And we know they're against it because all they talk about is democracy. And this is not a democracy. This is a republic. Now remember, we're Moors. We're Aboriginal and indigenous to the land. So all we're doing is enforcing that. That's not our laws. We got our own laws. Matter of fact, you're supposed to have Grand Sheik and chairman or whatever who's supposed to make law and enforce law wherever you're at. And if you have no law there, you have to ask yourself, hold on a second, how come this? Because either you're going to stand on the Constitution, enforce that, or you have your own laws. But if you have your own laws, then who you voting for? Where you voting for in people's stuff is no different than people want to go file UCC. Voting is like filing a UCC. Because you're dabbling in stuff that's none of your damn business. Mind your business. Why are you going in people's stuff? Why are you going to vote in people's stuff? They're talking about private colonial operations of corporations. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about the stuff that Oscar DePriest was talking about. Don't think because it's the same building that they're walking into that it's the same stuff going on in there that was going on during Oscar DePriest's time. The building doesn't change, but those people in and out those seats, all those seats are bought off today. I mean, not one seat. People are in the seat talking about the seat's hot. McFadden, James Traficant, Jesse Ventura, wrestler guy. Wrestler guy even became governor in the same stuff that you guys vote, telling Moors to go vote for. A wrestler was a governor. A basketball player right now is a mayor. How's the guy who dunked on Elijah on a mayor of somewhere? How's he a mayor? Like, what do you mean you're a mayor? Oh yeah, that's private corporation. Of course you could be a mayor. Of course a wrestler could be a governor. Because all the stuff that they do is kangaroo. It's nursery. It's a game. They're not serious. You voting makes it serious. Especially Moors. Because if we're saying we're Moorish American, Noble Ali said the Moorish American. Oscar DePriest comes talking about American citizens in the Congress and all that. How do you not realize that the game changed? Like what happened? You just jump from 1929 to 2016 and think that you're still dealing with the same stuff that's going on? You have that Johnson president and Martin Luther King and stuff like that talk about they have documented conversations of Martin Luther King trying to influence him to sign Voters Act stuff. Why? Oh, because same thing, you get black vote. You get the blacks on the side of the whatever. Which is why, Harry Belafonte dropped the stuff and said, well, Martin said that, he let us into a burning building and stuff like that. And then people still playing the voting BS, even though man came out and said he led them into a burning building doing all that Civil Rights Voting Act BS. Now Moors now, who are supposed to be of sound mind, are telling people go vote for Hillary or Trump. Moors, Moorish Americans, who say that their nationality is Moorish American, are telling people that they should go vote, and then out of these two people, pick one of them people. And then forget about the other 3 or 5 people or whatever like that, the rest of the people on the ballot. Now that's supposed to let you know. New Moors coming in, thinking that you're coming into some bliss of your nationality and birthrights. No, there's, doo-doo all over the place. Watch where you step. You're gonna think, oh, Moore wrote a book or whatever like that, and then by the time you finish that book, you wake up and, smoldering stuff going on outside because people distracted you from what the hell you're supposed to be doing, which was their purpose. So you tell people, coming into this information, make sure that you're not coming in here talking about you're trying to get out of something. Because contrary to popular belief, how people talk about, Islam wars and beloved and peace and love and all that stuff. There's some dirty stuff that went on over here. Dirty. There's dirty stuff that went on over here. And it's dirty when Moors are telling people go vote in a democracy. People who say that they're Grand Sheik. People who say that they're Grand Sheik are telling people, go vote in a democracy. And then Moors coming in, they got 8 months studying under their belt. They think they know something. They're backing them and riding with them. Not realizing that you're undermining your own birthright. And Noble Drew Ali said he knows where all you Moors are on the path. So, people who playing games, you gotta play your game. I mean, you playing your game. Right? How about Cujo's Canadian? Playing games. Cujo's Canadian more than no such thing as Canaanland, and let's ask Canada, see what a Canadian is. Right? There's a dictionary on Canadian law. Canadian, a Canadian citizen, a Canadian government, federal, provincial, local, or an agency, an entity, a resident Canadian, a partnership of which a majority of the members are resident Canadians, and in which interests representing in value more than 50% of the total value of the partnership property are owned by resident Canadians. A trust established by a resident Canadian. All these things is what a Canadian is. A majority of trustees of which are resident Canadians, Her Majesty and Right of Canada, or a province or territory of Canada, or a municipal corporation or public board or commission in Canada, a body corporate incorporated under the laws of Canada, of which a majority of directors are Canadian. Now, for a Moorish American to say that somebody's Canadian, when Canada is in North America, which means anybody that's claiming to be Canadian or anybody assumed to be Canadian might not be, because they could be American. Because I know for a fact that our family's been here before 1867, when Canada was founded. And the only way that I can be Canadian, the only way that I can be Canadian is if I'm an American first. Because they would have to get rid of me being American in order for me to be a Canadian. Because people in Canada are called Canadian Americans. How come people in Canada aren't called Canadian Americans? Canada's in America. If Canadian's the country, then Canada's in America. People should be called that. Italians, Italian American. Bolivian American. Cuban American. Mexican American. But don't get it messed up thinking that somebody who comes to the Americas has the same power as the Americans. Because the Americans are the copper-colored natives that were here before the European came here in 1867 and started saying that this is Canada. That's why the Moor even put the link. When you look up North America, they show Canada. So when you look up North America and they show Canada, that means Canada's part of North America. It's not its own entity by itself, separate from U.S. Those two are brother and sister corporations that the people cannot be citizens of. So as soon as you hear Moors talking about citizens of corporations, know that those are the dirty Moors who were against Oscar DePriest. Those are the dirty Moors who were against Noble Drew Ali. Those are the dirty Moors who were against CMB. And all the other constitutionalists that came after Noble Drew Ali. And these individuals, and it's only because you people excuse them. I don't excuse them. They already know I don't FUX with them. They already know. They don't have to ask. That's why when you ask them, all they have, Cujo's renegade more, and Cujo's dirty more, and Cujo's this and that. But tell them, show you how much books they wrote. Tell them, show you how much classes they did. How much lectures have they done? All they're going to tell you is that they did some debates or some crap like that. But when it comes to Cujo, no debating. You know what I mean? They're going to listen to Sabir Bey tell them, don't debate me on the day of the debate. And then say that it's Ramadan. And then say that it's some other stuff. Because they already know that, it's not going to go down like that. Right? Point 2 with regard to Canada. We put it on the record in the book that I wrote. Welcome to Canada. Tell them, show you something they wrote. Tell them, show you something. Before you start liking their posts or something like that, tell them, quote that in their book that they wrote. And I mean book. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about binder, binded paper, call that book. Right? We're talking about, you can turn the pages. You know what I mean? Because it's a book. Right? Tell them, show you something. We put it on the record. U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has Canada listed as a corporation under number 0000230098. Business Office, Canadian Embassy, 1746 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20036. John A. McDonald, speaking in Halifax. In the first place, remember this is Canada. John A. McDonald is a Canadian Prime Minister. In the first place, we know that every individual state was an individual sovereignty, that each had its own army and navy and political organization. And when they formed themselves into a confederation, they only gave the central authority certain specific rights appertaining to sovereign powers. The dangers that have risen from this system will avoid if we can agree upon forming a strong central government, a great central legislature, a constitution for a union, which will have all the rights of sovereignty except those that are given to the local governments. Then we shall have taken a great step in advance of the American Republic. Why? Because it's all the same group of dirty colonists that set up these foreign corporations, have them posing as government because the people are too stupid to realize that they're the government. If your vote is what makes that guy be whatever, then that means you're the one with the power. So how about keep your power instead of go vote? Especially Moorish Americans. But it's not nothing that's getting stopped or anything like that right now, because they're in full swing. Right? They're in full swing. Oh, you have to mute more. They're in full swing. So we'll go again to some things that Noble Drew Ali had on the public record. Anybody could just go check and understand the position that he was taking. What was he really doing, mixing with these people who are in Congress and government and people who are, in a certain jurisdiction? Like, why is he dealing with them? How come he's dealing with them? I mean, how are they taking him so serious? Are they taking him that serious? That he's going to be documented in the newspaper that he attended governors' inaugurations. Right? He was setting things up for the Moors. He was getting the word out that there's certain people out here that are not Negro black colored, that are not part of your jurisdiction that you're setting up. That we know what's up. Because we had Oscar DePriest was our spy. We already know what's up. We already know you guys are fraud. We know that you're a fraud. We know the purpose of what you're undermining. Because they don't want the people to be in charge of the government. They want a democracy where the mob rules. The guy with the biggest tank rules. The guy with the biggest nuke rules. People don't have any say. And Noble Drew Ali had everything established. There was manufacturing companies and all that. Who do you think was working at those? Negro black colored people? Who do you think had all these Moorish businesses? Fisheries and stuff like that? Negroes? Moorish leader attends inauguration of the governor. The Moorish Science Temple of America was represented at the inauguration of Governor Lewis L. Emerson in Springfield, Illinois, Monday, January 14th by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It was a busy day for the distinguished Moorish leader in Springfield, beginning with breakfast aboard one of the special trains of the Illinois Central Railroad, attending the inaugural ceremonies of the State Arsenal Building, and ending with interviews with many distinguished citizens from Chicago, who greeted him on every hand. The Prophet expressed himself as being highly pleased with the trip, and that many courtesies extended him by the military and state officials. By the military and state officials. Now, he said, let's just see if, because Noble Drew Ali, he did some things. He did some things. And when you have documented stuff, again, just go to Chicago Defender, right? Everything's there. Once you go to Chicago Defender, newspaper, archives, you'll see everything there. Now, they said that a courtesy was offered. Let's not see if courtesy was in there. I never even thought to look that up ever. No. Oh, look at that. Courtesy. C. Curtsy. All right. Curtsy. Okay, so let's go over this again. The Prophet expressed himself as being highly pleased with the trip and the many courtesies extended him by the military and state officials. And then when you look up courtesy in Black's Law Dictionary, it says see curtsy. Right, so we go to courtesy. Courtesy, the estate to which by common law a man is entitled on the death of his wife in the lands or tenements of which she was seized in possession in fee simple or entail during her coverture, provided they have the lawful issue born alive which may have been capable of inheriting the estate. It is a freehold estate for the term of his natural life. Courtesy, initiate, is the interest which a husband has in his wife's estate after the birth of issue capable of inheriting, and before the death of the wife. After her death, it becomes an estate by the courtesy consummate. So, many courtesies extended to Noble Drew Ali by military and state officials. Remember, this is documented fact. And again, we know Noble Drew Ali was dealing with law. So that's why even a word like courtesy, look, we just check the law dictionary. That's why you're supposed to have your dictionaries. Because you might assume that, you know, people were courteous to Noble Drew Ali during his visit. Oh, bow to him and make him feel like the prophet. Well, no. What if they were releasing the estates back to him that they jacked? Because when we check the law dictionary, courtesy tells you look up courtesy. So we have to ask the question. So everybody knows the $1 million question. If a courtesy is an estate, and the state officials and the military gave the courtesies back to Noble Drew Ali, the $1 million question is, yes, right? And who we gonna ask the $1 million question to? Exactly. Because we already know that it was individuals with turbans and fezzes that were going to put you back in slavery. Which they did. That's why they're trying to convince you to go vote. Because that's what their handlers did. So now you know. It's on the public record that Noble Drew Ali got the estate back. Because he was given the courtesies. Really let that digest. That a courtesy is an estate, a freehold estate. And Noble Drew Ali was the heir. And he got the estate back and gave it to his beneficiaries. Who are you, the Moorish Americans, who recognized Noble Drew Ali, recognized your forerunner Marcus Garvey, and that Allah sent these men to you to get you out of the slime of life that you were groveling in. Like a dumb... Our dollars and cents, for all the Moors that got where's the Moorish unity and all that stuff? This one's for all you people. Where's the Moorish hospital and where's the Moorish this and that? This one is for you people. Our dollars and cents. The doctrine of economic security is by no means as widespread and intensive among Americans of our group as the circumstances demand. And the more written and said on the subject, the better. We need to more earnestly urge conscientious support of the businessmen and women of our group in their chosen fields of endeavor. The greater and chosen fields of endeavor. Not someone knows how to ride a writ. You don't know how to ride a writ. So you're going to tell them 500 an hour. That's not. Because you could just give them the writ, let them change the names and change the stuff, and then, not be 500. Right? Chosen fields of endeavor. Not, well, that question you asked me is very profound. Call me tomorrow. Check my scheduler. Call me tomorrow between 2 and 5. I'll give you a good rate, 100 an hour. Yeah, but I just want to know why I'm not Negro black colored. Yeah, I know. Don't worry. So watch out for those people telling you about it's their chosen field of endeavor to file UCC 500. Watch out for them people. Chosen fields of endeavor means occupation. Means what kind of trade do you do? Build me a whatever right now. Show me something that you've done that proves that. Give me some numbers of some people who can verify what you're telling me right now. You know how to do what? You got a prototype of that? Or you have a prototype of that? Chosen fields of endeavor. The greater the success of their business enterprises, the more open gates of opportunity there will be for our youth of today and tomorrow. It's Noble Drew Ali again. Keep in mind. Think of this fact. We need to urge that our businessmen and women build on the principle of service. Should we look? Yeah, sure. Let's look at it. Just to see. Just to see. Service, Black's Law 1533, has a variety of meanings depending upon the context or the sense in which it is used. For family, see title. Contracts, the being employed to serve another, duty or labor to be rendered by one person to another, the former being bound to submit his will to the direction and control of the latter. The act of serving, the labor performed or the duties required. Occupation, condition, or status of a servant. Performance of labor or benefit of another, or at another's command. Attendance of an inferior, hired helper, slave, etc. Service and employment generally imply that the employer or person to whom the service is due both selects and compensates the employee or person rendering the service. The term is used for employment in one of the offices, departments, or agencies of the government, as in the phrases civil service, public service, military service, etc. Domestic relations. The services of a wife, or the loss of which, occasioned by an injury to the wife, the husband may recover in an action against the tortfeasor, include whatever of aid, assistance, comfort, and social society the wife would be expected to render to or bestow upon her husband in the circumstances in which they were situated, and in all the relations of domestic life. Feudal law, the consideration which the feudal tenants were bound to render to the lord in recompense for the lands they held of him. The services in respect to their quality were either free or base services, and in respect of their quantity and the time of exact them were either certain or uncertain. Practice, the exhibition or delivery of a writ, notice, injunction, etc. by an authorized person to a person who is thereby officially notified of some action or proceeding in which he is concerned and is thereby advised or warned of some action or step which he is commanded to take or to forbear. And then it goes on: personal service, public utilities service, service of publication, service of an heir, service of process, special service, substituted service. Right? And then don't forget your magistrate and subject chapter in your Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and master servant and magistrate and subject. We need to urge greater cooperation among them to render courteous, honest, and efficient service to the buying public. They should not expect any support and patronage merely on the grounds that they are racemen and women in business, but for the reasons that the service and quality of their goods and products they sell are equal in value to the service and merchandise offered to the buying public of any other business. Right? So that's for all the Moors out there. That's for all the Moors who, say, well, just support because you're a Moor. No, if your service sucks, you're not getting no support because I'm a Moor. If it takes 800 weeks to get my t-shirt, your service sucks. And as a Moor telling you your service sucks, you should do some things to make your service better, so you can have the support and patronage. Because not because we hate you that we don't support. It's because, every time I order an oil, half the stuff's done by the time it gets to me. If you say that you filled it, then you say that as then maybe, you'll find another way to send your stuff, insure your stuff or something like that. Right? They should not. There should be maintained a cooperative spirit among our businessmen and women to keep their business places as clean and sanitary as similar places in any other section of the city. Citizens of our group should cultivate a sound vision when it comes to the necessity of buying professional service, merchandise, provisions, etc. We should look beyond the direct result and object for which we invest our money. We should lose sight of the mere fact that we receive a dollar's worth for a dollar spent. We should keep firmly in mind the necessity of keeping each dollar spent as much as possible within the spheres of our own activities, where they will create further openings of business, enterprises, and wider opportunities for the men and women of our group to produce soundly remunerative employment. Forward must be the watchword of the seller and buyer alike. We make the money, we spend the cash. Let us sincerely cooperate with one another. Our plight will change when we change ourselves. Noble Drew Ali. Prophet announces his authority and power. Forced to make changes. All governors and other officers of the Moorish Science Temple of America are hereby congratulated for their past loyalty and fidelity. For I know it will be the same in the future because of certain incidents that have arisen in some of the temples, which seem to come from the fact that there are those who do not know where the seat of power is vested. The Prophet had ordered the following to be published. For all those Moors who's talking about love dirty Moors and all that stuff, we're just the Prophet talking now. Because of certain incidents that have arisen in some of the temples, which seem to come from the fact that there are those who do not know where the seat of power is vested, the Prophet has ordered the following to be published. So, what we're reading right now, or going to read, is because of dirty Moors trying to undermine the movement before Noble Drew Ali even left the forum. And he has literature addressing it in 1920 whatever. You know? How come not talking about this stuff? You know, speaking to people in Moorish Science Temple. Because I'm a Grand Chief, so put out certain information. But you're not hearing nobody out here that says they're Moorish Science Temple of America talking about these letters, these articles that are public record. That if you claim that you love Noble Drew Ali and all that, you better know this stuff. You better know what's in these. Because this is part of the literature. That people have, Moorish literature, where can I get that from? You're supposed to go, you have race pride and love your race? Join the Moorish Science Temple of America. And then you will have power to redeem your people. That's why we open up our stuff to anybody come join. Especially if you've been down with the prophet and all that stuff, and you're thinking, you know, I don't need to be part of that because no, come join. This is a good one. This is the one on the path that you're on right now. So why not join? That way you can really tie yourself to Noble Drew Ali. All you have to do is say you're a member of that. You're officially a member. You put your stuff in. You're a member. Think Noble Drew Ali is not expecting you to be a member of Moorish Science Temple? Oh, dirty Moors, so I'm not going to be a member. Okay, well, how come you weren't a member of Canaanland? You know, those Moors, they're all right. Well, you know, I took my application back because, you know, their Grand Sheik, he swears and stuff. What's that have to do with Moorish Science Temple? I mean, you know, opinion is no proof of truth. If he's swearing, clearly that's his opinion. If it's his opinion, it's no proof of truth. What does that have to do with the truth that Noble Drew Ali brought? Oh, you want a reason not to be down with Noble Drew Ali, so you're going to blame certain people. It doesn't work like that either. Because as much as we want to think, you know, birthrights and I'm a Moor, you know, we got sovereign, we can do what we want and all that stuff. Take it from somebody who got their coattail burned. The good Moors, not the dirty Moors that got burned. Take it from a Moor that's a good Moor that got the coattail burned. Take the prophet more serious than you take the prophet. You think you take the prophet serious? You need to take him more serious than you take him. So this is being read to all the people who are under the authority of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Right. All authority and power of the Moorish Science Temple of America is vested in the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and those whom he appoints to act as the supreme body. The Prophet has the authority and power to expel any officer or member of the Moorish Science Temple of America who willfully violates or refuses to comply with the rules in regard to branch Moorish Science Temple, and such suspensions and expulsions shall stand until, in the judgment of the Prophet, the members and officers shall have made satisfactory atonement. Right, for all the dirty Moors, you can atone. It better be satisfactory. For all the dirty Moors that want to pretend like Prophet never announced his authority and power. Right? All of these expulsions, all the judgment that you're getting in your life, wife leaving you and all that type of stuff, mess with the Prophet. Don't get mad. Get right. Don't get mad. Or you got problems? Somebody attacked you or something like that? Don't happen, fell asleep at the wheel, crashed your new whip or something like that, and you're more, yeah? Probably went against the Prophet. You weren't taking him serious, were you? You thought this was a joke and unreal. You thought you're more, you go out there and do whatever you want. No, Prophet announces authority. Laid it all down. That's why we follow our instructions. Hey, can't say that you're not told. We told you not to mess around. We told you I'll study. You said study 3 times. You study 1 time? You think you know something? Alright. Think those 2 times not going to come back to get you? Alright. I mean, all officers and members of Moorish Science Temple of America and such rules and regulations of the Constitution shall be in writing and not at variance with any law of the city, town, or nation which the Prophet shall declare a law. During this session of the convention, all rules, regulations, and laws of the Constitution and such as might be enacted and ordered by the Prophet shall express and explain in detail, so there can be no doubt as to what is required of each and every officer or member of the organization. Laid it all down. Where's the stuff at? Let's go ask those people who've been in control of the movement after Noble Drew Ali died, making up all these vital statistic stuff and setting up all these different register your dog for Moors. And then you realize all that stuff's going back to U.S. Corporation. These people, there's documented letters between U.S. Department of whatever and Moors about setting up some type of whatever for the Moors. Why you going to them? They're a foreign private inquisitionist occupational corporation. Why are you doing business with them? What's the purpose of Moors? Noble Drew Ali gave you everything it takes to save a nation. Take it, save yourself. But they're going to foreign corporation. The Prophet will positively not tolerate any interference with the operation of this national divine movement from anyone. Also keep in mind, as well, divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. Go read that and see in there where he says anything about U.S. citizen. Or go vote for some democracy. Just go read it. It's public record, because I was posted in the Moorish Guide too. So it's public record, available to anybody who has common sense. What's this? Not too bad of a question, so we can. Right, so let's just touch on another 7 minutes of Oscar DePriest. This is a congressional backlash.
Nation bills during his tenure in Congress. One of the most effective ones was in 1933. He was able to introduce an anti-discrimination amendment to a bill that established the Civilian Conservation Corps. So it said that there could be no discrimination in the hiring of employees through race or religion. It passed both houses of Congress and was signed into law by Roosevelt. That was a huge step back then. In 1934, an anti-lynching bill failed to pass twice. Even though it didn't make lynching a crime, what it did was it held accountable the local authorities who were responsible for the prisoner that was in their care. And they were subject to both fines and prison.
Right? So they're trying to just lynch people, kill people, drag people behind their truck, or whatever, right? Oscar DePriest is trying to implement law so that when these people start doing their goon squad, whatever, that we're not even going after them people. We're going after the people who are the quote-unquote government, sheriff, deputy, law enforcement, whatever, we're going after those people, because those people have a responsibility to protect the citizens, even if they do something criminal. Right? Protecting the people from what? Corrupt government that's going to sit back and let this thing happen and not do anything about it. It's not on the lynch mob. The lynch mob is not the problem. They're exercising their constitutional right, because there's something unconstitutional called Negro Black Colored Person. And you know, everybody's gonna hunt down the raccoon with rabies. If it's in a community of, you know, dogs or whatever. So somebody doesn't want to know their dogs get rabies and all that. So they would make sure that they catch this raccoon. Hence, black people getting called coon. Because they're like a raccoon. Tear up a metal garbage can, they'll tear up a metal garbage can to go get to that garbage. Right? So, we're not even looking at Negro behavior. We're looking at this individual exercising the constitutional right to say that these citizens need to be protected. Well, why would these citizens need to be protected? Why would he put forth a bill, right, to protect Negro, Black, and colored people who are not citizens and have no rights, only have privileges? Clearly, he wasn't there on behalf of them. He was there on behalf of the American citizens, the people who actually had rights. And at that time, it's the Negro, Black, colored people that fall into the jurisdiction and end up getting a little benefit. Because of how vast this concept of teach the people the Constitution was spreading. Because of this influential, quote-unquote, black congressman who, like the grandson broke down, black people were looking at him like he's in Congress with all these KKK people. This guy must be our Jesus. And this is after Noble Drew Ali. But remember, he was taught by Noble Drew Ali. And according to Moors, that they on the public record, nobody denied anything, said that they're saying nothing wrong or whatever. So according to Moors, he was also a member, Oscar DePriest, of Moorish Science Temple of America, specifically Noble Drew Ali's temple.
So if a prisoner in their jurisdiction was lynched, the sheriff or the local police chief was held liable and could be thrown in prison or fined. There was some accountability there. I think that's what he was trying to establish. You know, the lynchers themselves would not be held accountable, but the authorities would, who allowed the lynch mobs to take whatever unfortunate soul out of whatever jail they were in. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling to think of the environment that not only would allow lynching to take place, but to not be able to pass a bill through Congress that made people accountable for lynching another human being. So what that said was, it's okay to lynch black people in the United States of America and nothing's going to happen to you.
And then those are the same people that's still around today. Because remember, Oscar DePriest was trying to change that. Right? Those are the same people who are still around today that are telling Moors, go vote. And you're voting for the people who didn't even vote for Oscar DePriest's bill to stop lynching. But they're going to tell you, go vote for them people. They're going to tell you, take your birthright, take your nation's sovereignty, and give it to these criminals again. Didn't Noble Drew Ali say your own is going to put you back in slavery? He never said how. Why? Because there's so many ways that they're going to do it. Ways you can't even fathom that they're going to get you back in the jurisdiction of U.S. Corporation, Canada Corporation, so they can steal your birthright again. This is where these people are at. Why we, and me specifically, don't FUX with these dirty Moors. Because they're doing a disservice. Better they shut the hell up if you have a problem with what active Moors are doing. Just shut the hell up. Better you do that. But nah. Putting it on the record once again, correcting these dirty Moors stuff that they're pushing out there, got people thinking that, yeah, I never thought about that. Noble Drew Ali and his stuff said for people to vote, and people voted for Oscar DePriest and all that stuff. Yeah, they voted for Oscar DePriest because Oscar DePriest was a member of the Moorish Science Temple. That's why they voted for him. Because he was their representative. That's why they voted for him. You do not have representation. Because whoever, trust me, whoever you think you have in there, that's your representation, trust me, none of them are beating Hillary or Donald Trump. So, comes again, don't vote. What are you voting for? Your guy's gonna lose. Oh, is there some moral support and you don't care about the winning and stuff? Yeah, yo, throw your vote behind him. You're not really serious about some elections and, you know, your no-name guy is gonna win. Right?
So that's a real black mark, I think, in the history of Congress to let that one slip by twice. He also was able to submit to Congress a bill to permit the transfer of venue or jurisdiction if a defendant believed that he or she could not receive a fair trial because of race or religion. Now that was prompted by the famous Scottsboro, Alabama trial, in which 9 African American boys were sentenced to death by an all-white jury for the alleged rape of 2 white women, despite a lack of credible evidence. Citing several high-profile cases involving unfair treatment of African Americans across the country, DePriest said in a speech on the floor of Congress that, I am making these remarks because I want you to know that the American Negro is not satisfied with the treatment he receives in America, and I know of no forum where I can better present the matter from the floor of Congress. Also, he was able to introduce a bill in 1931 that would make Lincoln's birthday a national holiday. So he was the one that broke the ice for President Lincoln. In 1932, he introduced a bill to pay former slaves who were 75 years old or older a pension. That did not make it through Congress. Also in 1932, he introduced a bill to reduce the number of seats for states that disenfranchise black voters. You can imagine the reaction he must have gotten from all those southern states where disenfranchising black voters was just a way of life. Needless to say, that didn't go through. Oscar was worshipped by blacks in this country because he had restored their sense of pride and given them hope, things that they had never had before. He had achieved almost folk hero status among blacks for his actions in standing up to racism not only in Congress, but everywhere he traveled. It is truly amazing to me that he wasn't assassinated during his time in Congress, because he would travel to every little backwater town in the South, and he was asked to do so. There was no doubt that he was the most threatened man in America besides the President of the United States. The race-baiting Democrats, as he put it, would threaten him at every turn, both on the floor of the House and through proxies in their in states they represented. He was acutely aware of the threats to his life and did revise his last will and testament before he started on his journey through the South. I just found that out about 2 months ago, going through some of the documents that he had brought his will back up to date before he started his journey south. So he was aware of the fact that he might not come back. On June 25th, 1930, he traveled to Birmingham, Alabama. In spite of warnings by the KKK, they had set up a telegraph saying, "Your presence is not desired in Alabama. Alabama is a white man's state." Signed, the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. My great-grandfather said that as a United States citizen and a member of Congress, that he could go wherever he pleased. He did go to Alabama and gave a number of speeches down there. As a United States citizen and a member of Congress, that he could go wherever he pleased.
Right? Remember, this is after Drew Ali now. After Drew Ali now, this is his grandson saying that he's now speaking from United States citizen jurisdiction. Remember, this is 33. Remember, this is the New Deal. There's all that stuff going on that, you know, if you weren't out of it by then, you were now dissolved into the dissolution. Keep that in mind. That when Noble Drew Ali was around, he was saying American citizen. By 1933, he's now saying U.S. citizen. And that's not because he was a U.S. citizen. That's because of the undermining that took place in 33 with the New Deal. And them starting to make everything democracy, corporate democracy. Which is what Oscar DePriest was against. He wasn't for the democracy. He wasn't representing as a democratic agent of the U.S. He was a congressman who the people put in that seat, not the government. He didn't apply for that job. The people voted him into that seat. And go check the New Deal. That was part of the New Deal. Those seats are dissolved because they now belong to international bankers.
He did go to Alabama and gave a number of speeches down there. He received a letter from the KKK in Atlanta that was addressed to the nigger congressman in Washington, D.C. It said that he would receive a wooden overcoat if he ever dared come to Atlanta. Well, he did go to Atlanta and gave a number of speeches, and he never did get his wooden overcoat promised by the local KKK.
Look up the 1930 newspaper clipping. Chicago Klansmen burned DePriest effigy. See if you find that. And the Scottsboro boys case. So we see, that Noble Drew Ali knew what he was doing. Oscar DePriest knew Noble Drew Ali's plan, and incorporated it into his activity as a congressman. And his talk was very constitutional in nature. He wasn't a democracy agent. Right? So we let's deal with the questions. We got one testimonial, Brother Yusuf Matadi L. Islam, give high honor to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. This is a testimonial from yesterday, November 5th. Well, 2 days ago. November 5th. While at the post office near Massachusetts Bay Colony Corporation, I was picking up fezzes from Latez Bay that he sent free using thumbprint as a stamp and certified mail. Walking in to get the package, I used nationality identification card to pick up. The clerk looked at it, got up and started getting the package, no problem at all. Now I thought it was just going to be regular getting the fezzes because I already have my fez on and always do. Then it happened all over again. I saw that royal blue on that fez and I was stuck. I could really for a moment get this feeling in my chest like the first time getting the fez. Goosebumps and all. Give thanks Canaanland Moors for the time. Islam. Right? And again, that's from, another Moor out there studying, right? And realizing that this birthrights is not just get the name and get the card and be able to there's a very high spiritual aspect of proclaiming your nationality as a Moor. Very high spiritual aspect, right? And once you tap in, because there's no how do you tap into once you tap in. If you're studying, trust you'll tap in. And then you start having those experiences that, when you see bus number 77, it'll jolt you, because you know that somebody, you know who, but somebody sending you signal. You think about whoever, and then they call you, and then when you answer the phone, it's 1111. You know that something is going down, right? And those are minuscule spiritual occurrences that happen. Like when you get a fez for the first time, and you get goosebumps because you bought a fez, you get goosebumps. Like you're looking at the fez and you have goosebumps. I mean, something's going on. You had the anxiety feeling in your stomach the first time that you put it on and look in the mirror. The very high spiritual thing going on in this Moorish movement. So do not take it lightly, because it goes in the positive way and it goes in the negative way. The high spiritual aspect applies in the negative as well. So don't play around thinking that, you know, because you know a little something, that, you know, you got it. You might not have got it yet. Right? Brother Latez sent some questions that he got from some black folks. So there's 9 of those. We'll address those, and I think there was one more question. So who and what is Black America? Well, Black America is what unconscious people call our people in mass that are in America. But the reality is that those people aren't black. So there's really no such thing as Black America in that context. Black America. There's no Black America. Right? Because if there's a Black America, then there has to be every other color America. And there isn't. So you know, it's just like with the little song there, you know, 3 of these things are doing its own thing. One of these things is playing the ass. Okay, it's the same thing. Ain't nobody else calling themselves colored American or color America, except the guy playing the fool. Right? So no such thing as Black America. It doesn't exist. It's a fiction. Right? Black America is really Moorish America. Just so you have, because I know you're going to ask them, well, what is it then? It's Moorish America, because we're Moors. We're not black, we're Moors. And even the blackest person is not black. He has nationality. He's from the Congo, Senegal, or something like that. Right? What is the nationality of a Black American? Right? So the nationality of a Moorish American is Moorish American. The nationality of Moors in America is Moorish American. The nationality of so-called black people classified as Black American is Moorish American. Are people identified by colors? No, people are not identified by colors. People are identified by nationality. So look at how colorable your concept is. That you ask about Black Americans' nationality, then the question right after that, you're asking about our people or colors, when you just identified that the nationality must apply to a black person. So if nationality applies to a black person, then they're not going to be colored. They're not going to be called a color. Why? Because colors are adjectives. They describe things. And people can't be adjectives. Right? What is the national flag of Black Americans? Well, if we're talking about Black Americans, black means death. Black means you're the lowest you're the lowest being on the planet. Your flag for Black American is the black flag logo for the roach spray. That's why Nas told y'all niggas like roaches, because you're black and the only flag you have if you're black is the black flag, which is roach spray. Right? So if you want to be black American, then the world knows that your flag is roach spray. Black flag. That's the only black flag that exists. Right? And if you are Moor, then your national flag is the red flag with the 5-point green star in the center that they would call the Moroccan flag. What constitution secures and protects the inalienable rights of black Americans? Like we were talking about earlier, the so-called black Americans, which don't exist, don't have a constitution that protects them. Because they're not a citizen. Because they're not a citizen, there's no constitution that protects them. Right? They might be protected. You know, their constitution might be grammar, since they're adjectives. You know, so the rules of grammar would be their constitution. But I wouldn't go using the rules of grammar in the court. Try to get off something, because you're definitely going to get the psychological evaluation. Right? Because you want to be black, and black's an adjective, and then the only constitution of adjectives is the rules of grammar. Right? So if you're adjective, then rules of grammar is your constitution. Good luck with your constitutional grammar rights. What is the divine title of the black government? Well, there's no black government, just like there's no black Americans, and there's no black people, and there's no black anything else. Right? There's no black government. The title of the black government is non-existent. Right? The title of the Moorish American government is that it's Aboriginal and Indigenous. It's allodial. It cannot be encumbered. It cannot be bothered once it's exercising based on what was laid down by foremothers and forefathers. Right? So the divine title, and again, title as in claim, title as in position, right? Title as in cover of the book. Title varies, right? But in the context, the divine title is that it's allodial. The government of the quote-unquote so-called blacks is really Aboriginal Indigenous government, not what they say acts and statutes and codes and ordinances and stuff that people make up to say that that's law. That's nothing to do with our people. Only if our people are their property by calling themselves black. Right? And then they're saying they have a black government over here, but then they're classified black by them. Now they become insurgents because they're trying to take down the quote-unquote government when they're not supposed to do that. What are the descent names of their forefathers? The descent names of the so-called black forefathers are Moors, again. Moabites, Phoenicians, Canaanites, Amalekites, and any other types of ites. Many names our forefathers and foremothers had because we've been here for a very long time. Some names we haven't even heard before because they're lost. But we know that the descendants of the Asiatic people, we know that the descendants of the founders of civilizations are what their forefathers were, without doubt or contradiction. What land is associated with their descent names? The entire world. Each hemisphere, from pole to pole, is the land associated with, quote unquote, the Moors. What is the free national name and religion they claim? As Moors, our free national name is Moorish American. Our religion is Islamism, which is nature worship, astrology, cosmology, esoteric teachings, occult, holistic health, the list goes on and on. Because, as we spoke about in class, religion means to bind back. So anything that ties us back to our ancient foremothers and forefathers' culture is our religion. Right? So if you're not clear after that, then you probably got some stuff to deal with. Serious stuff to deal with. And again, just to put it on the record one more time, that Canada is in North America. So people who are in Canada can be either Canadian, which makes them property of the corporation, or they can be American, which means that they're the copper-toned Aboriginals that were here in the jurisdiction known as Canada before 1867, when they founded the Canada Corporation. If you check the record on Avalon Project, you'll find the letter written to the inhabitants of Canada, not the Canadians of Canada, the inhabitants of Canada. The inhabitants of Canada. So as soon as they start, like we said, when you got Moors talking about, NY and GA, FL, I live in FL, know that those Moors are working for the other side and they're trying to sway your vote. Don't sway your vote. Stick to the program. Study, study, study. And when you have studied and asked, I studied, what's next? The reply is study yourself. What do you mean? I just did 50 days in the tomb of the... Yeah. You asked, what's next? What do you want? Just shut your mouth then. If you didn't want to study anymore, you should have kept studying. When you got to the third study, you should have went back to the first study. Now you have 4 studies that you have to do now. And you're complaining. Because now you have 4. You had 3 before. But you want to ask what's next. It's all good. You know what I mean? Learning is essential. So Islam to all the Moors, peace and love. This weekend we got our little presentation with dealing with this whole Black Lives Matter and whatever else. Obviously there's going to be no class tomorrow, so we did it today. And we're going to get Sunday's class as well uploaded. So you'll have this class and Sunday's class for tomorrow. You know what I mean? To get your little study on. So Islam to all the Moors, stay true to the cause. Stay true to the cause. Forget the individuals. Right? Forget all the individuals after Noble Drew Ali who make this look good. Make this look like something to be down with. Don't worry about them. Stick to what Noble Drew Ali brought you. Right? Recognize that he was speaking, you know what I mean? He was speaking with the crystal ball. He wasn't just talking out his mouth. He was speaking with the crystal ball. So take heed to what the brother laid down, because trust me, it will save you. Islam to all the Moors worldwide. We'll just close out with a prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Ashe, peace and love.